Give us your take on these earnings. What does it tell you about the future, the second half maybe, for some of these airlines? Are we starting to see a pickup in demand?
Yeah, I mean, there has been already a pickup in domestic demand starting in March, but the pace of the recovery has stalled a bit in recent weeks, and the indications are that that this May holiday period won't be that strong, won't be as strong as maybe some people were hoping or expecting a few weeks ago. What's happened is the business travel has somewhat resumed, but the leisure travel hasn't. People are just not comfortable traveling yet, and that will take some time. But then, generally speaking, China is still much better off than the rest of Asia Pacific. Even with domestic traffic down about 70% in April, that's a lot better than any other market in Asia Pacific. And the worst was the first quarter, while for the rest of the airlines in Asia Pacific, the second quarter will be the worst quarter. And we'll see a moderating losses probably for the rest of the year. Definitely we'll still see losses, but I think it's safe to say the worst is over. It's just this domestic recovery might be a bit slower than some had hoped in the March month and in the second quarter.
How do you expect the virus to shake up and reshape China's airline industry that had been on course to become the world's largest airline industry? Are we still aiming and looking at that goal? Are they going to have to cut some routes? Are they going to have to reprice? How does it affect the broader industry in the medium to longer term?
I mean, I think in the long term, it's still the same. I mean, the fundamentals are good. The outlook for China is good. The traffic will return eventually, including international. So international will not return really this year, or might not return until next year or 2022. But the outbound China market, which is the Chinese going overseas, which has really picked up a lot in recent years and benefited a lot of foreign airlines as well as the Chinese airlines, as well as the tourism industries in many countries. Particularly in Southeast Asia, but also in Europe and North America and Australia, that will return eventually, and the center is still expected to be China as when growth returns, and that's why the Chinese airlines remain a good story. They have support from the government. They're not hedged. They have a huge domestic market that accounts for 2/3 of their revenue, and that will kind of hold them over a little bit better this year until we have the international recovery. And the government support is really key as well, because, like I was just mentioning, because other airlines around the world that don't have that necessarily that same kind of support, and some of those airlines might struggle or might even collapse. While in China, I think even the private airlines will have government support and will be able to raise equity or improve liquidity to get them over this, because they do have a good long-term growth story and a good long-term story generally.
Brendan, David here. You can't help but think that given the fact that you might have deep pockets in China and you also have cheap assets outside China as well. Talk to us about the potential for consolidation, acquisitions, in fact, here. Just, I guess, for argument's sake, which are there specific routes, specific assets, specific airlines, if you could name names, that might complement some of China, some of these big airlines in China that they might be looking at perhaps to purchase?
I mean, I don't think that's really the short-term focus. A lot of people have been talking about consolidation in many markets around the world, and surely there might be some airlines that exit or get new owners, but the new owners won't necessarily be other airlines. Just the airlines really have to focus right now on their own situation and their own markets. So I mean, in China, you could see some domestic consolidation. There's still a lot of uncertainty about the fourth largest group, which is the H&A group, which has Hainan Airlines and some other airlines throughout China, as well as Hong Kong Airlines. And so there could be some consolidation there within China. In terms of Chinese airlines buying overseas airlines, we've seen a little bit of that over the years. I mean, I think in the long term we could see that again. We could even see there's some speculation about maybe China making a move on Embraer now that Boeing has kind of killed that deal,
right.
Quite controversially just a few days ago. So long-term, definitely. But I think this short-term situation, I think the hype about mergers and acquisitions is a bit overblown. I think right now airlines are just focused on trying to have an exit strategy from this crisis and to survive this crisis in the meantime. A lot of them don't have the will or of course the capital to pursue acquisitions right now.